Okay, pay attention everyone. And the chapter's name is Newton's Law of Motion. Newton's Law of Motion. Okay. Try to understand why this chapter is important and how it is important. So first of all, in previous chapters, okay, we did study about how acceleration is going to affect the motion of object. So let me write that. In previous chapters, and which previous chapters? Motion in straight line and motion in plane. In previous chapters, we studied how acceleration would have affected how acceleration would affect motion of an object. Okay. So how acceleration affects the motion of object, that we have studied in previous chapters. Okay. But we did not talk how acceleration comes into picture. Okay. What causes the acceleration, that we have not studied. Okay. But we did not study the reason due to which acceleration is caused in the motion of any object. In the motion of any object. Okay. Now this part is very important. What is causing the acceleration, that we did not study, and that we are going to study in this chapter. Everyone, please keep your mics on mute. Please keep your mics on mute. Okay. So pay attention, everyone. So before we talk about Newton's law of motion, there is something called Galileo's experiment. Galileo's experiment. Okay. So what was Galileo's experiment? Let us see. So Galileo was a scientist who was born before Newton. Galileo was a scientist who was born before Newton. Okay. And he was also into science, into physics. So he performed certain experiments. He performed certain experiments. So let us see what was that. So what Galileo did, he took an inclined plane, and in that inclined plane, he this is called inclined plane. Okay, this is called inclined plane. He released a ball from the top. So when he released a ball from the top, from here, when it reaches the bottom, its speed increased. Its speed increased when it reaches the bottom. Okay, this was one part. Now in second part, or in say in the same experiment but in a different way, what he did it in reverse way. He did it in reverse way. So he threw, or you can say projected, this ball with some velocity, and when it reached above, v became 0. Okay, here u was 0 and velocity became v. That means when an object is released from the top, when it reaches the bottom, its velocity increases. When an object is thrown with some velocity from the bottom, when it reaches the top, or you can say highest point, its velocity decreases. Okay. So basic inference in this case was, when any object is coming from the top to bottom, velocity increases. When it goes from bottom to top, velocity decreases. So if an object is not going from top to bottom, that means if it remains on a horizontal surface, then its velocity should not increase or decrease. That was the inference. That was the intention which he wants to convey to a general public. That on a horizontal surface, velocity should neither increase nor decrease. That was his motive. So this was experiment 1. Okay, let me write it as first experiment. Now in second experiment, what he did, he took a watch glass. He took a watch glass.
Please call out a little bit.
What were you doing so far?
Last line.
Huh?
I missed out the class.
But why did you miss out the class?
Sir,
Say.
only the last line, sir, I missed.
So in this second experiment, what he did, he took again a ball, okay, and that ball is released from the top, and when it reaches the bottom, its velocity increases. Its velocity increases. And when it reaches on the other side, this was a smooth glass. Smooth glass. So when it reaches on the other side, here, final velocity became 0. So when people saw this, they said, what is big deal in this? This is due to symmetry. Because it is coming from same height, it is going up to same height. So it is happening due to symmetry. So then Galileo said, okay, if it is due to happening due to symmetry, then let me show you something. So what he did, he changed the shape of hemisphere on the other side. So he made it like this. He made it like this. Even in this case, ball went up to the same height. So now in this case, there was no symmetry. So people were in shock. What he did, he further made it like this, and again ball went up to same height. Again ball went up to same height. So what he did, finally, he made this surface flat, okay, and told people that this ball will keep on moving in search of height. This ball will keep on moving in search of height, so that somewhere it will get the height and it will rise up to that height. Okay. And after that, he gave his theory, but he did not, what we can say, presented it in form of any laws or anything. Galileo simply performed his experiment. He wrote those experiments in a diary, and then one fine day he left the world. Now, the same diary of Galileo was read by Newton, and he thought that this gentleman has done a very good job. Okay, so based on the experiment performed by Galileo, Newton gave his three laws of motion. Okay, so let us talk about that now. So, first law of motion. First law of motion. This is also called law of inertia. This is also called law of inertia. Okay. First law is also called law of inertia. This is also called law of inertia. This is a qualitative law. This is a qualitative law. Why we are calling it a qualitative law? You will get to understand, because this law tells us the quality of force. Let me write it also in the bracket. As this law tells, as this law tells quality of force. Quality of force. Okay. And you have noticed that word force has come into picture. Word force has come into picture for the first time in the physics which we are studying. Right? Okay. So, what exactly this law says? According to this law, according to this law, if an object is at rest, if an object is at rest, it will remain at rest. It will remain at rest. And if it is moving, and if it is moving, then it will continue moving with same velocity. It will continue moving with same velocity until an external force acts on it. Acts on it. So this is very important. So what this law says, that if anything is at rest, anything, then it will remain at rest. And if it is moving, then it will continue moving with same velocity in the same direction until an external force acts on it. As simple as that. Now pay attention, what is the significance of that? Suppose there is your mobile phone which is kept on the table, okay, or let's say your a glass of water, or your book which is kept on table, okay. Now that book which is kept on table, it will continue to be there on the table. Now also after 5 minutes, after 10 minutes, after 15 minutes, after 1 hour, after 2 hour, after 5 days, until an external force acts on it. So until you go and push that or remove that by applying force, it will not move. It will not move. That means what is causing the motion of book? Force. What is causing the motion of force? If it is moving, the force can cause the motion. So if an object is at rest, if the book is at rest, it will remain at rest until some force acts on it. And if suppose anything is moving with some velocity, then it will continue to move with same velocity in the same direction until an external force acts on it. Okay. So basically this law, first law, tells us what force can do. Okay. So let us talk about that. Force. So what is a force? So pay attention everyone. A push or pull is called force. A push or pull is called force. Very simple definition. What is a force? A push or pull is called force. Alright. What kind of quantity it is? It is a vector quantity. It is a vector quantity. SI unit is Newton. SI unit is Newton. Newton and capital N. Okay. You must have noticed that I have written N of Newton in small. Right? Here I have written N of Newton in small letters. Okay. That is true for every physical quantity. If you are writing its full name, then the first letter should be small. But if you are using a symbol N, then it is capital N. Okay. Remember that. Okay, everyone. So suppose if it is Newton, then if you are writing full Newton, then N will be small. If you are writing N as Newton in short form, then capital N it will be. Okay. So a push or pull is called force. Force is a vector quantity. SI unit is Newton. Now comes the next thing. What force can do? Okay. What force can do? So force can number one, set a resting body in motion. Set a resting body in motion. Okay. So if force is there, with the help of force, you can set a body which is at rest into motion. So force can set a resting body in motion. Number two, it can stop a moving object. So force can stop a moving object. That also can be done by the force. Number three, can change the direction of motion of object. Can change the direction of motion of an object. So that is also can be done by the force. And the fourth thing is can change shape or size of an object. Can change shape or size of an object. Can change shape or size of an object. So these four things can be done by the force. These four things can be done by the force. So if any object is at rest, then force can set that resting body into motion. Okay. So for example, suppose there is a ball, correct? And that ball is taken by the bowler, and due to that the force which is applied by the bowler, that ball comes into motion. So the force which is applied by the bowler is causing the motion of ball. So force can set a resting body in motion, correct? Now when the bowler has thrown the ball, ball is caught by the wicket keeper. So when wicket keeper is catching the ball, he is stopping a moving object. Okay, he is stopping a moving object. So that is also done by the force. The force which is applied by the wicket keeper is actually stopping a moving object. Correct? Now, but suppose before reaching to wicket keeper, if batsman hits the ball with the bat and ball goes out of the boundary line, then what is happening? Batsman is changing the direction of motion of ball by the help of force applied by the bat. Correct? So that is third case. This can also happen with the force. Now fourth thing, suppose the ball was such fast that before the batsman could play the ball went and hit the stumps and the stump got broken. So what is happening? The ball, or you can say force applied by the ball, is changing the shape and size of stump. So it can change the shape or size of object also. So these are the four things which force can do. Number one, force can set a resting body in motion. Number two, force can stop a moving object. Number three, force can change the direction of motion of object. And number four, force can change shape or size of an object. Alright. So these are the four things which can be done by force. Now comes next. As we have already talked that Newton's first law is also called as law of inertia. As we have already said, we have talked that Newton's first law is also called law of inertia. So inertia is of two types. Inertia is of two types. So inertia of an object. Inertia of an object depends upon its mass. Inertia of an object depends upon its mass. Greater is the mass of object, greater is the mass of object, higher will be its inertia. Higher will be its inertia. Okay, remember this slide. So if an object has more mass, its inertia will be more. If an object has lesser mass, its inertia will be less. Okay. If an object has more mass, its inertia will be
Sir, I think your screen froze.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Hello.
So your voice is cracking.
So your voice is cracking.
Can you hear me? Can you see the screen?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Can you see the screen?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Hello. Can you see? Can you see?
So your voice
No,
is
sir.
breaking.
So now it's visible.
No,
So it went away again.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
okay. Okay. So please
No,
note.
sir.
No, sir.
It's visible, sir.
It's not, sir.
No, sir.
How many of you can see the screen?
Yes, sir. The screen is visible.
yes.
Now it's visible, sir.
Okay. So inertia of an object depends on its mass. Inertia of an object depends on its mass. Greater is the mass of object, higher will be its inertia. Higher will be its inertia. Okay. So accordingly you can decide. Suppose you have 10 people in your group and you can arrange them in their according to their masses. So more will be the mass, more will be the inertia, less will be the mass, less will be the inertia. Correct? So that way you can easily identify. Now, as I told you, inertia is of two types. Inertia is of two types. Number one, inertia of rest. Inertia of rest. Number two, inertia of motion. Some people also call it three types, and in the third type they name it as inertia of direction. but basically that is inertia of motion only. Okay. Okay. So inertia of rest, what do we mean by it? That means if an object is at rest, it wants to remain at rest. Okay, so that is inertia of rest. So if an object is at rest, if an object is at rest, then it tries to remain at rest. Then it tries to remain at rest. This inertia is called inertia of rest. This tendency to remain at rest, this tendency to remain at rest is called inertia of rest. This tendency to remain at rest is called inertia of rest. Okay. Now inertia of motion. What exactly does it mean? If an object is moving, then it continues to move in same direction. It continues to move in same direction with same velocity, If an object is moving, then it continues to move in same direction with same velocity until a force acts on it. This inertia or this tendency to move in same direction and velocity is called inertia of motion. Is called inertia of motion. Okay. Is called inertia of motion. Now in both the cases, when you talk about inertia of rest or inertia of motion, it is decided by mass. More will be the mass, more will be the inertia. Lesser will be the mass, lesser will be the inertia. Okay. So now try to understand. Suppose you are sitting in a bus. You are sitting in a bus and bus suddenly starts. Then what happens? You fall in backward direction. Okay, you fall in backward direction. Why this is happening? So pay attention. The moment bus starts, okay, so bus is in the motion because of starting. Now your body part or body portion which is in contact with the bus, you can call it tashrif. So that also starts moving with the bus because it is in contact. But the upper body part which is not in contact with the bus, it falls in backward direction. Okay. So that is due to inertia of rest. Okay. Now similarly, suppose you are in the bus or in a car and the car is moving already. Suddenly brakes are applied and you fall in forward direction. forward direction. So why you are falling in forward direction? Pay attention. Because suddenly when the brakes are applied, the car comes to rest, your body part which is in contact with the car, that also stops, that also comes to rest, but the upper body part, it still wants to remain in the motion, and due to that tendency to continue the motion, that upper body part falls. Okay, that's why it is important to wear seat belt. That's why it is important to wear seat belt, because due to seat belt what happens, the upper body part also comes at rest immediately when the brakes are applied. Okay, and that can save major damage also. Okay, understood? Very nice. So this is inertia of rest and inertia of motion. As I told you that there is something called inertia of direction also. Some people call it a different type of inertia. So let me tell you what is this. Suppose you have tied a stone to a thread or wire. You have tied a stone to a thread or wire and you are rotating it in a circle by your hand. And now suddenly, if the thread breaks, then that stone goes in tangential direction. That stone goes in tangential direction. So that movement of stone in that particular direction is called inertia of motion. That movement of stone in that particular direction is called inertia of direction. But you can understand that it is happening due to motion only. So inertia of direction is a part of or type of, you can say, inertia of motion. Clear everyone? Any doubt, any question? Any doubt, any question? Good. So now you can see in the complete study so far, we have not talked about any number. We have only talked about what all force can do. Okay. So basically, that is the importance of Newton's first law. It is qualitative. It is qualitative. And how it is qualitative? Because it is telling us the quality of force, what all force can do, how you can get the definition of force. So we get the definition of force from the Newton first law. That is the important part of first law. Okay. Okay. Let us move further. So Newton's second law. Newton's second law. So Newton's second law is a quantitative law. It is a quantitative law. So basically first law is qualitative, it tells us quality. Second law is quantitative, it tells us quantity. That means how much force will be required for some task, how much. So that's why it is quantitative law. Okay. So Newton's second law is a quantitative law. Before we talk about Newton's second law, let me tell you what is momentum. So please write momentum. Momentum, P vector. Okay. So what is momentum? What is momentum? So product of mass and velocity of an object. Product of mass and velocity of an object product of mass and velocity of an object is called momentum. Product of mass and velocity of an object is called momentum. product of mass and velocity of an object is called momentum. So P vector is equal to mv vector. P vector is equal to m v vector. Momentum is a vector quantity. Momentum is a vector quantity. SI unit is kg meters per second or Newton second. Please note everyone. Please note. Any doubt, any question? Good. Question. An object of mass 20 kg is moving with velocity 50 meters per second. Find its momentum. Find its momentum. Please find. So it is very simple. P is equal to mv. So P will be m is 20, P is 50, and that will give you 1000 kg meters per second. All right. All right. Okay. Next question. Next question. An object of mass 10 kg is moving with velocity 5 meters per second towards east. Later it moves with 5 meters per second towards north. Find number 1 initial momentum, number 2 final momentum, number 3 change in momentum. So you need to find these 3 things, and the sign convention which is there for you is this is x and this is y. Okay, already given the sign convention. sign convention is already given to you. Okay, everyone, please pay attention. So first part, initial momentum. Okay. So object is moving with velocity 5 meter per second towards east. So this is our north, south, east, west, and axis towards east. So P initial vector is equal to mv vector. M is 10 into V is 5 I cap. So that gives us P initial is equal to 50 I cap kg meters per second. Kg meters per second. 50 I cap kg meters per second. Now second case, final momentum. P final again will be mv vector. Now final vector is towards north. So 10 into 5 j cap. So P final will be 50 j cap kg meters per second. Kg meters per second. Okay. Now always remember, change is always final minus initial. Change is always final minus initial. So delta P vector is equal to P final minus P initial vector is equal to 50 j cap minus 50 I cap is equal to 50 times j cap minus I cap kg meters per second. Okay, and you can leave your answer like this. You can leave your answer like this. Okay, any doubt, any question? Any doubt, any question, anyone?
No, sir.
Good,
No, sir.
good. Next question. So an object of mass 5 kg is moving towards a wall with speed 20 meters per second.
So scroll up.
an object of mass 5 kg is moving towards a wall with speed of 20 meter per second. Find change in momentum of ball if number 1 ball collides with the wall and stops. Ball collides with the wall and stops. Number 2 ball collides with the wall and rebound and rebound with same speed and rebound with same speed. Okay, please solve everyone.
Sir, there is some disturbance.
Which disturbance?
Sir, helicopter.
Hmm?
Sir, some helicopter sound, something like that.
Now? Now?
No, sir.
Okay, everyone, please pay attention. So in A part, when ball collides with wall and stops. Okay, so suppose this was the wall. This was the ball, and this is going with mass is 5 kg and going with 20 meters per second. Okay. So P initial vector is equal to M V initial. M is how much? 5. V initial is 20. You can say I cap. So that will be kg meters per second I cap. Now P final becomes 0 because it is stopping after the collision. So delta P is equal to P final minus P initial is equal to 0 minus 100 I cap, and that is minus 100 I cap kg meters per second, and that is delta P vector. Okay. Now if you see magnitude, so delta P is equal to 100 kg meters per second. That will be 100 kg meters per second. Now let us talk about second case. In second case, what is happening? A ball is projected like this with 5 kg 20 meters per second. After collision, it will come like this, 5 kg 20 meters per second. So B part. P initial will be as it is, MV initial, and that is 100 kg meters per second I cap. Now P final, listen carefully. It will be MV final vector, and that will be minus 100 kg meters per second I cap. Okay. So delta P vector is equal to P final vector minus P initial vector is equal to minus 100 I cap minus 100 I cap. So minus of 200 kg meters per second I cap. So delta P vector. So magnitude of delta P is equal to 200 kg meters per second. Answer. Okay. Okay. Any doubt, any question? Any doubt, any question?
No, sir.
Good. What is this, Pranil? It's a timetable uploaded in files. Sir, we can solve it by using change in velocity, right? We have done it that way only. You want to solve it, Rishikesh, by mass into change in velocity? That is the same thing. That is the same thing. Now, why we are talking about momentum and what it has to be? Let's talk further. So Newton's second law. According to Newton's second law, according to Newton's second law, according to Newton's second law, force acting on an object, force acting on an object according to second law, force acting on an object is equal to its rate of change of linear momentum. Rate of change of linear momentum. Okay. So according to Newton's second law, force acting on an object is equal to its rate of change of linear momentum. So F resultant, or you can simply write F also. F is equal to rate of change, that means delta P upon delta T. F vector is equal to delta P upon delta T. Okay, and that you can also write it as F is equal to dP upon dt. So differentiation of momentum with respect to time gives force acting on an object. Please note, differentiation of momentum with respect to time gives value of force acting on the object, at that moment. Okay, so let us solve a few questions based on that. Question: so a 5 kg object is moving with velocity v is equal to t square plus 3t plus 2 meters per second. Find number 1, force acting on the object at t is equal to 4 seconds. Number 2, force acting on the object during 0 to 5 seconds. Please find. Okay, everyone, please pay attention. So P will be mv, and that will give us P is equal to m is 5, V is t square plus 3t plus 2, t square plus 3t plus 2. So F will be dp upon dt. F will be d upon dt of 5 times t square plus 3t plus 2. Okay, so that can be F is equal to, now 5 is taken out, differentiation of t square will be 2t, differentiation of 3t will be 3, and that's it. So F comes out to be 5 into 2 10t plus 5 into 3 15. So at t is equal to 4 seconds, so F4 is equal to 10 into 4 is 40 plus 15. So that becomes 55 Newton. How many of you solved it correctly? How many of you solved it correctly? All right, all right. Sakshi, Yash, Rishikesh, Madhura, Padma. All right. Now the second part. And the second part says force acting on the object during 0 to 5 seconds. So F 0 to 5 will be, now pay attention, or you
Can you please
can
scroll
before.
up? Done.
So F average is equal to delta V M delta V, or you can say delta P upon delta T. So that is how you calculate F average. Now delta P is nothing but M delta V upon delta T. So that will be F is equal to average is equal to M delta V is V final minus V initial upon T. So F average is equal to M. M is 5. Now V final. Velocity is given as t square plus 3t plus 2. Okay, and this is to be 0 to 5 seconds. So 5 square t square plus 3t. So 3 into 5 plus 2 minus 0. So that will be 2 upon 5. So that will give us 5 got cancelled, 2 got cancelled. F average is equal to 5 square is 25 plus 3 into 5 is 15, and that will be 40 Newton answer. 40 Newton is the answer. Good.
So
Good.
could you please scroll up to the question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Next question. For an object of mass m, velocity is given as v is equal to a sine t I cap plus b cos t j cap. Find force acting on object at t is equal to pi by 2 seconds. Please find out.
So it is a sine t I cap or a
Yes,
sine plus.
a sine t I cap.
Okay, sir.
Okay, everyone, please pay attention. So F will be dp upon dt. F will be dp upon dt. Now, how much is P? P is mv vector. So P comes out to be m times a sine t I cap plus b cos t j cap. So P is equal to ma sine t I cap plus mb cos t j cap. That is P vector. So F will be dp upon dt is equal to d by dt of ma sin t I cap plus mb cos t j cap, and that will be m can be taken out. Differentiation of a sin t will be a cos t I cap plus b cos t will be so b into minus sin t j cap, because differentiation of cos t will be minus sin t. So that is the value of f. M is outside. A cos t I cap minus b sin t j cap. So at t is equal to pi by 2, at t is equal to pi by 2, so f pi by 2 is m outside. A cos pi by 2 I cap minus b sin pi by 2 j cap. Now cos pi by 2 will become 0. Cos pi by 2 will become 0. So that will give us f pi by 2 is equal to minus mb j cap. Answer. Answer. Please note everyone. Please note. You can put a Newton outside. Okay. Any doubt, any question, anyone? Any doubt, any question, anyone?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Good. Good. Next question. So if for an object mass of mass m, velocity is given as v vector is equal to t cube plus 3 sine pi by 2 t. Find force at number 1 t is equal to 0 second, number 2 t is equal to 1 second. Quickly solve this, quickly. So P vector is equal to mv vector. M is m and v is t cube plus 3 sine pi by 2t. So that is P. So F will be dp by dt is equal to d by dt of m times t cube plus 3 sine pi by 2t. Pay attention everyone. So then differentiation of that will be, now m is constant, it can be thrown out. Differentiation of t cube will be 3t square plus differentiation of 3 sine pi by 2. So 3 is anyway constant. Differentiation of sine pi by 2t. So sine will be cos. So cos pi by 2t into pi by 2t will be pi by 2. So this is the f. So f comes out to be how much? 3 can also be taken now common. So 3m t square plus pi by 2 cos pi by 2 t. Okay, so this is the value of formula. Formula means force. So now at t is equal to 0, so F0 will be 3m into 0 square plus pi by 2 into cos 0, because cos pi by 2t will be cos 0, so cos 0 will be 1. So answer will be 3 by 2 pi m. Now at t is equal to 1 second, so F1 is equal to 3m into 1 square plus pi by 2 into cos of pi by 2, which will become 0 because cos pi by 2 is 0. So answer will be 3m. Newton's answer. These are the answers. How many of you solved it correctly? How many of you solved it correctly? Yes has got, both has 0. No, that's wrong. Because cos 0 is not equal to 0. Okay. Understood everyone?
So please scroll up to the question.
This is the best part in discussion. When the entire question has been solved, then people ask, sir, please scroll up to the question. Because pi by 2, Rishikesh, pi by 2 is multiplying with t. So basically that is sine kx. So d by dx of sine kx will be first of all cos kx, and then differentiation of kx will be k. Now replace the k with pi by 2. Oh, okay, sir. Thank you. All right. Okay, everyone. So that is enough for today.
Just for the
Okay.
second part.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.